However, if they really start sliding here over the next week or so, then that's probably going to be evident at that point. But if they keep doing this back and forth thing, where they're 4, 5, 3 games under 500, in a couple weeks time, I mean, I think the writing is on the wall at that point. But if we're looking at the Red Sox payroll, if we're looking at some obvious candidates, I mean, I think you're looking at Aroldis Chapman. He's had a great year. He seems every year he's on the block. He didn't get moved last year, which I thought was surprising. Guys like Justin Wilson. No, Ref Snyder, he's a free agent, but this guy's talked about retiring, for crying out loud, so I don't know about him. But Justin Wilson, he's had himself a good year. I could see there. Then you're looking at guys like Walker Buehler, Lucas Giolito. They're more interesting because they're getting paid a lot more money, but they're not really having great years. I mean, here's the thing. Walker Buehler, you kind of wonder with Buehler, he's had his ups and downs here with the Red Sox, but if they end up falling out of it, could a team maybe see something in Buehler and be like, hey, you know what? We think we can get this guy on track and he can be good for us in the second half. I've seen people, recommend maybe just sending him back to the Dodgers. I mean, why not at that point? The Dodgers, I mean, they've had so many injuries, but he had a tough time there last year. Could you really maybe even see that? If the Red Sox do fall out of it, maybe the Dodgers give him a call. They got the money, right? I think they were still interested in bringing Buehler back this past offseason. We'll see. Giolito, he's just so up and down. It's starting pitching at the end of the day, right? If teams want innings, but would they want him at that much? Buehler, I could see, again, the Dodgers maybe be willing to do something there, or some other teams possibly. Other than that, I don't know. I don't think Story would get moved. I think that's going to be more of an off-season thing. Or do they just DFA him? If they fall out of it, I mean, do they just honestly cut ties at that point? Then you really start to get interesting, where the two hot names, as well, the one hot name, but then there's another one, Jarren Duran, and then Will Urie. I do wonder, Duran, that's going to be interesting, right? Because he still has a lot of control left until he hits free agency. He's been hitting very well as of late, just tripled here tonight. This is a guy that could really help out a lot of teams, especially at the top of the order. He's got a lot of value, and the Red Sox, with how bad they've been with starting pitching, I think if there's a deal out there where you can get back a young, cost-control pitcher, for example, someone like Bryce Miller for the Mariners, if they want a deal from their rotation, that's kind of where I'm looking. There's some other examples out there. I did just do a video on my main channel on some Jarren Duran trade proposals from Bleacher Report. Spoiler alert, they're all pretty terrible. Bleacher Report, they do use baseball trade values, but they sorry, I'm not trying to sound like I'm the smartest guy in the room, but they put together some pretty bad trades, and that's not even coming from a biased point of view. Just a lot of them didn't make sense. There was one, though, with the Mariners that I thought made a little bit of sense. But go watch that video. Let me know what you think about it. But with Duran, I mean, he definitely would bring some value to a lot of teams out there offensively. The Padres were the one team being linked to him. I don't know if they have the trade assets to get it done. Maybe they could get a third team involved. If they gave up Leo DeVries, then I think that could be interesting. But, I think the Red Sox would want young starting pitching in return. It's kind of where I'm at. So that's where I wonder if maybe you can get a third team involved. We'll see. But everyone, if you're watching this on Nesson, I do have to cut it off right there. We are partnered with Nesson now, everybody. So you can catch this on Nesson Nation. But I do have to end it right there. I'm going to stick here on YouTube if you are with me. So Nesson viewers, I'll talk to you next time. But for the YouTube people, thank you for joining me tonight. Really appreciate that. If you can, hit that like button for me. And if you are new, think about subscribing. We're trying to get to 4K by the All-Star break. We'll see if we can get there. But Duran, the Padres makes sense. If I'm thinking of some other teams, I could see maybe the Guardians making some sense. The Royals, maybe. I came up with one idea. It's not a great one, but if the Royals were willing to maybe sell high on someone like Chris Bubic, who's in the rotation this year for the first time in a long time. He came from the bullpen last year. Would they be willing to sell high on him? I don't know. Probably not. But I could see the Royals where their offense in the outfield is not very good. They did just bring up Jack Caglione, but he can DH, outfield, whatever it may be. And then the Guardians, I feel like they could use a bit of a boost in the lineup. They got some interesting pieces within the organization. They do have some young cost control pitching there. I wonder if they would be maybe interested there. The Dodgers, Michael Conforto, he's been very bad this year so far. He has not been a good pickup. The Dodgers, right? Hey, they got a lot of young pieces within that organization. They got some young pitching. Granted, a lot of them are hurt, but they do have some good prospects. Maybe they would be interested, especially if they can keep him away from the Padres. I think that could be something. I do look at a team like the Pirates. It doesn't sound like a very fun idea at this point because the Pirates are out of it, but because he has the few years of control after this, and they are just struggling with offense, maybe that could be a bat that, could be one of the centerpieces of the lineup moving forward. And they have young pitching within the organization. Not Paul Skeens. I'm not saying Paul Skeens, right? Would they be willing to deal Bubba Chandler? Probably not. I don't see that happening. But never say never, right? Even someone like Mitch Keller, right? Maybe you could do something there where you send him back to the Red Sox and they can take his contract, throw some other pieces with him. I could see something like that. I think the Giants are interesting. I don't see them making a deal, but he could definitely be a guy that he would be very good defensively out there. And with Duran, he does use the Green Monster very well. So I wonder how his bat and his game offensively would translate to a more spacious park. But I could also see the scenario where he can get a lot of balls to drop in. So I don't know. I think the Giants do make some sense on paper. And they do have some young pieces within the organization. I don't think they would trade Bryce Eldridge. I think that's going to be their next power bat. They're still looking for a guy to hit over 30 home runs since Barry Bonds. I think Bryce Eldridge could be that guy at some point. But Duran, I think, would be an electric addition for this lineup. If we're looking at some other teams, I think the Astros could make some sense. I don't know if they would have the pitching. I've seen people out there suggest, maybe they would be willing to trade Hunter Brown. No, I don't think they're going to trade Hunter Brown. That's a young ace. You don't just trade guys like that. I know I mentioned Bubba Chandler, but even still, I don't think the Pirates would do that. I don't think the Astros would trade someone like Hunter Brown. They got some younger pieces within the organization. You could put Jose Altuve. Well, he is back at second base now, but if you wanted to, they did just call up Jacob Melton recently, but if you wanted to add something to this outfield, to this lineup, Duran, especially for with on the IL, he just went with a fractured hand, Yordan Alvarez. So who knows if he's going to be back. So I could see a scenario like that, maybe. I don't know if the Astros would have the pieces to get it done.
Sometimes we get the asks for lightweight hoodies, and I'm like, they exist. They're awesome at Rhoback.
Without a doubt. Comfort, lightweight, durability. I wear these all the time. The color schemes are absolutely phenomenal.
Go check it out. You can use the code FOUL on Rhoback.com for 20% off your first purchase. That's FOUL on RHOBACK.com. 20% off all shorts, hoodies, polos, and more. Go check out Rhoback.
I've seen people mention the Phillies. I mean, that would be a lot of left-handed bats in that lineup. Brandon Marsh hasn't really done anything this year, but that would be a huge upgrade to the lineup. Brandon Marsh, I don't know what you do with him at that point. I guess he's off the bench or whatever. But you would automatically, you would take your number 9 hitter and turn him into a leadoff guy. So, yeah, Andrew in the chat, I agree. No chance Hunter Brown gets traded. I don't see that. You just don't do that. I don't see it. So Jarren Duran for the Phillies, I could see that. Bleacher Report proposed them trading Andrew Painter. There's no way. They're not going to trade Andrew Painter, just like the Astros wouldn't trade Hunter Brown, just like the Pirates probably not going to trade Bubba Chandler, Paul Skeens, obviously. I don't know if the Phillies would have the pieces to be able to get it done. And that's, again, where I look at the Mariners. But the only hang up here is they never want to deal from their rotation. I mean, that's been something with them over the last couple of off seasons. They don't want to trade any starting pitching. Could they be a little different about it? The offense has actually been pretty good with the Mariners this year. They've turned things around since last year. But they don't want to deal with these guys. And even, Bryce Miller, he hasn't been very good this year. That's where, I think the Red Sox would love to get, Brian Wu. But I don't think the Mariners are going to trade him. So that's where you could look at Bryce Miller, but again, he's not having a good year. He's got good stuff, but he still hasn't found a way to really strike guys out. He was a guy that had, right around 8 strikeouts per 9 the last couple of years. That's gone down this year. His command's gone down this year. Even the velo's down a little bit. So is Bryce Miller really that intriguing at this point? Jim is here. Ballcap Sports is here, ladies and gentlemen. Go subscribe. Let's go take a look-see. Mick Abel, the problem with him is the track record doesn't help him out, but he is having a pretty good year this year. Let's actually pull up the most recent numbers with Mick Abel. I kind of always forget about Mick Abel because it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind, hasn't really done all that much. Now, he's had a couple of games here. He's looked pretty good. That could be. I still remember when I wanted the Red Sox to draft Mick Abel. Now, in the minors this year, 10 starts, over 10 strikeouts per 9. Still walking a lot of guys. 4 walks per 9. That's a lot better than what it was over the last few years. Still high, though. Not giving up home runs, so that's good. ERA is at a 2.21. FIP is at a 3.56. Sure, maybe. If we're looking at, let's put it together here, shall we? Let's put it together. Hold on a second. We gotta sign in here. Hold on a second. And we got a trade possibility here. Let's do it. Let's do the Red Sox. Let's do the Phillies. But here's the thing about the Phillies. They would have so many left-handed bats. So many. Now, Mick Abel has improved his value up to 10. So, I don't know. Could you argue maybe that could be higher? Yeah, but I think he still needs to build that track record. So here on Baseball Trade Values, if you are listening to this via podcast format, he has a surplus value of around $10 million. But again, if he shows that he's ready for it, he's put the past behind him, then yeah, I could see him having a lot more value. Now, what could you attach with him? Here's the thing. The Red Sox, they need pitching. I don't think you need someone like Aiden Miller. I mean, it would be nice to have. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. If the Red Sox end up stinking this year, well, then I don't know. Maybe Aiden Miller could be a future possibility at third base, right? If the Red Sox stink, Bregman goes elsewhere. I don't know. Also, Alex Bregman. I'll give a shout out. Alex Bregman. He had a mustache tonight. Good mustache, I got to say. But, could you do something like Aiden Miller, Mick Abel, throw in some other guys? I don't know. If Ranger Suarez had some more control, I could see someone like him possibly. Well, they're definitely not trading Jesus Luzardo, so you can get that out of your head. I don't know. You got someone like Chase in there. I don't know. Alec Boehm, maybe. Probably not. But then, they do have some guys, and you can never count out Dave Dombrowski when it comes to figuring out how to get a trade done. So, we'll see. But Jim in the chat, this deadline kind of stinks for Philly outfield upgrades. Robert would be the fit, but his bat is garbage. It is garbage. He is stealing a lot of bases. So he's still got that athleticism, but he's got to figure something out. That's where I think a change of scenery could help him out. Team gets him back on track. Say, hey, you're doing this wrong. Let's start doing it this way. So maybe that could be something. We'll see. Maybe the Phillies. I'll be honest with you. Jim, I don't know if you mentioned this. I don't know if you're still here. I don't think the Royals do this. Sell high on Chris Bubick. That sounds crazy. I feel like you just don't do that. I think that's just probably ridiculous. But I just wonder. I don't know, man, because this guy kind of came out of nowhere this year. Do the Royals say, hey, we trust ourselves to develop some more pitching. We can get ourselves a guy that can actually hit in the outfield. All right, we'll give you Bubick. But I feel like people would be shocked at that because of how good he is, how good he's been this year. I don't know. If you did trade Bubick, you would still have Reagans, you would still have Lugo, Waka. You just brought up Noah Cameron. And Jim, selling high. That's kind of what I'm saying, right? He's about to turn 28. And that's a guy that can go into the Red Sox rotation right now and help them out over the next couple of years. And like you said, only one more year of control with Chris Bubick. So, I don't know, man. It's interesting. But I think Duran, he could definitely help out a lot of teams out there. And I think if the Red Sox, if they keep sputtering like this, I think you have to look into it, right? It's got to be the right package in return. We'll see. But everybody, I'm going to wrap it up right there. I probably missed someone as a possible trade candidate. I did mention Wilyer Abreu. I could see that too. If you're looking for more of a guy that can, give you some more power, then yeah, if a team's looking for that, I could maybe see that. We'll see.